హలో సార్.
Shankaraiah sir.
సార్ నమస్తే.
నమస్తే అన్న. ఇది మీకు జీవితంలో ఫస్ట్ టైం కదా?
అవును సార్. అందుకే
ఈ ఫోన్ లో ఇట్లా ఎక్కడో ఉన్నోళ్ళు ఎవరితోనో మాట్లాడుకోవడం, ఇట్లా అందరూ కావడం
ఫస్ట్ టైమే. నేను నేర్చుకున్నది
నేర్చుకున్నారు. ఇప్పుడు మీటింగ్లు అంటే ఇట్లా అవుతున్నాయట. అంటే ఎవరు గలవనక్కర్లేదు, ఎవరు ఒకరిని చెయ్యి పట్టుకోనక్కర్లేదు. మీ మీటింగ్లకి ఎంత తేడా ఉంది చూడు.
ఇప్పుడు ఫస్ట్ టైం.
అచ్చా, నేను కొంచెం వీళ్ళకి ఇంగ్లీష్ లో చెప్తా, వీళ్ళందరికీ ఏమో మాట్లాడుకుంటున్నారు అనుకుంటా. So I was saying everybody that it's the first time for Shankaraiah to join us like this. He's new to Zoom, new to a smartphone, so on. And I was telling him that the idea of meeting has changed. You know, the book is full of meetings, land, guns, caste. I mean, there are meetings and meetings and meetings. None of them happened on any kind of the stuff that in which this book is involved for now. This book about meetings being launched at a meeting, which is the first for Shankaraiah.
Sir.
అదే వీళ్ళకి ఇదే మీకు చెప్పినదే వీళ్ళకి చెప్తున్నా. I can see SKR Chaudhary Saab, the one who proofread the book. Barbara Harris White is here. Hello there. Jumur Lahiri. It's not yet 6, so we will wait. ఇంకా 6 గంటలు కాలేదు కాబట్టి
సార్
ఐలయ్య గారు కూడా వస్తారు. ఐలయ్య గారు మీకు పరిచయం కదా? కలిసి
చాలా 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 పరిచయం. 10-15 years నుంచి.
So to all those who are here already, they'll be back and forthing from Telugu, Telangana Telugu to or whatever Telugu I know to English. Gita will facilitate summarizing and translations. We're waiting for Professor Ilaiah to join. Hello, Professor Ilaiah.
Yeah.
Hello, Ilaiah.
Yeah, hello.
Right on time. Oh, I can see Leela.
Can I call you later?
Leela, you just show your face and run away if you don't mind. Oh, there you are. Oh, you.
Okay, you don't have that link on your email, is it? I'm on. Okay, I'm on that line now. I'll tell them.
Leela, you don't have to run away. You can keep your video on. I just said that you had the option. Doesn't mean
Anand, Gita వచ్చిందేమో చూడు.
గీత వచ్చింది, అక్కడ చూడు, పైన ఉంది.
మరి గీత వస్తే అది రమా మెల్కోటే wants this link on our email.
On her email or WhatsApp? You have Gita, you have Rama's.
No. She has to send on email, not WhatsApp.
Okay. Gita, you can even type here the phone number or something, or we can send it. Can you hear us, Gita? I really like the way this meeting is starting. Earlier, people used to call, where is this place? I can't find it. Now, where is the link? Hi, Inga there. I get to see you finally.
Hi, Gita. This This is Vimla.
Hi, Vimala. Hi,
Old friend
Anya.
of Gita's.
Gita, unmute yourself. You can't mute yourself today. No muting of self.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
this is
Gita.
Sumit.
Alex, unmute Gita.
Yes, Ramaku Gmail lo పంపించాం link.
Okay. So Vimala is saying hi to you
Yes,
while you
yes.
are on mute. Yeah.
Hi,
Hi,
Gita.
Sumit. Hi. Hey, Vimla.
So nice to see everyone.
Yeah, and I like the way this meeting is starting. So everybody can say hi to each other, those who are meeting after a long time online. I was just telling everybody that Shankaraiah Gariki, this is a new thing. Alex, should we kind of formally start? Gita, what do you think?
Yes, we've got
5 minutes
42.
past 6, so
Yeah, it's past 6. So hello, everybody.
You got it?
Who?
No.
Wait.
No. See,
Wait,
she sent on Gmail just now. Gita is telling she is online. No, poster lo kaadu. Gita, did you send her link?
Yes, no, the link on Gmail.
But it is connect. It is put within the poster, I believe. Can you copy and paste it? Just link.
Yeah.
Okay, I am messaging you, Gita. Let's resolve this.
Just copy and paste it.
Or just go into Zoom and enter the meeting ID. That is what I did.
I just messaged you, Gita.
Yes.
So cut and paste.
No, cut in.
Forward, copy, whatever.
I've
Yes.
sent it to Gita. I've been here. I've sent it to Rama.
Okay, I also sent it.
Okay.
Very good.
All right, so Veena, how are you? Hello, Veena.
Where is Veena?
Everybody is now messaging me. Send me link.
Who's messaging you?
People, same thing. Send that link directly.
Hi, everyone.
Veena,
Hi. Yeah.
how are you?
Well, I told you, alive and kicking.
No, I don't hear you. No, I'm also like that.
Yeah. Because this is not a meeting to tell you about my life story, mate, about Gita.
No.
Gita's life
Just
story.
just tell that alive and kicking is a good answer.
Yeah, so that's good enough, no?
Yeah.
I don't think you deserve anything better than that.
Yeah.
So Ilaiah,
Yeah.
should we start? What do you say, Gita?
Yes, I think.
There are about 50 people, I think.
Yes, please
More
start.
will join. So Shankaraiah garu,
Sir.
మిమ్మల్ని నేను ఇట్లా కలుస్తున్నా ఒకరోజు వద్దాము హైదరాబాద్ వచ్చి మళ్ళీ అక్కడ నుండి ఇబ్రాహీంపట్నం ఒకసారి గీతతో బుక్ లాంచ్ కాదు రావాలా so I'm telling Shankaraiah that I need to meet him, and it's kind of for me as a publisher, this has been a book which is a joy to work on. 2 years went into from the first draft till today, I would say, on the eve of Baba Sahib Ambedkar's Jayanti, which is tomorrow, and right in the middle of Dalit History Month, where here we have a Savarna in the middle of Dalit History Month. What exactly is happening? Why are we doing this? What is
Anand,
this
you'll
book
have
about?
to talk louder. You're just wondering.
Yeah, how about others? Can you hear me? I do have a clear earphone.
I think you could be a little louder.
Okay, I'll try to be a little louder. So I was saying it's a proud moment that after 2 years of work on a manuscript that has given us great hope and stimulation and joy to work on, we are here. Gita started working on it around the pandemic time and then submitted it 2 years ago, literally. And it gives me further joy that somebody like Professor Kancha Ilaiah, I mean, I grew up in Hyderabad. Ilaiah taught me in Nizam College, but my path with Gita did not cross till I founded Navayana. So such was her work that till she wrote the work about Ibrahimpatnam Taluka Vyavasaya Kulila Sangam, and what the book set out to document. It set out to be only a memoir about Ibrahimpatnam and her work there. She always referred to it as the work. And I had no idea about this side of Gita. So I've known her for nearly 17 years, as old as Navyana is as a person. Yet this book was a revelation to me as a friend first, then as a publisher.
Rama. నేనే పైన పోస్టర్ పైన బ్లూయిష్ లింక్ లేదా? బ్లూయిష్ ఇది లింక్ పోస్టర్లు ఎందుకు ఉంటుంది? నో పోస్టర్లో లింక్ ఉండదు, బ్లూయిష్ లింక్ ఇంకోటి పైన ఉంటుంది చూడండి. అదర్వైజ్ ఐ క్లోజ్ మై కంప్యూటర్ అండ్ సెండ్ యూ అగైన్. అదే okay. No, just a minute. No, I'll work out something. Yeah, you are okay.
Ilaiah, I have sent her a link to below the poster.
But she is saying it is always coming in the poster only.
She should go below this. She should scroll down. The link is very obvious. I just checked.
Rama, that is Veena saying she has sent you the link, separate link. Can you go down the poster?
I think you should mute everyone, Anand,
Oh, mute
and
everyone.
continue with the thing.
Okay.
Gita.
Yeah. You tell me.
Hello.
Yes.
Acha,
No,
Ilaiah, I'm putting you on mute for a while.
Yeah, you do that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So where were we? So this whole thing of how to get on Zoom has been an issue for the last 2 days for especially Shankaraiah Garu, who has, I think, managed it better than Rama Melkote. So I want to refer to what Ilaiah wrote a day or two ago in the print, how the Brahmin Banya capture of English, and there's a chapter on in the book called Brahmin at Home and Catholic at School. And right now, more than just literacy in English, which Ilaiah Garu is talking about in this context, it's also this. Then when Gita told me, Anand, you have no idea, nobody in Ibrahimpatnam and the areas I work knows how to use the smartphone and get on a Zoom call. What they know is WhatsApp. You have no idea. I said, no, somebody from Ibrahimpatnam should be there. As publisher, I make these decisions and tell her, you have to do this. So it was quite something, I think Gita said, Ilaiah. So Shankaraiah గారు ఇదే చెప్తున్నా, ఎట్లా మీరు అక్కడ ఈ జూమ్ ఇదంతా ఈ మీటింగ్ ఈ కాన్సెప్ట్ ఎట్లా మారింది. And also these kind of meetings that we are doing, Shankaraiah has never been part of. The book is about meetings, all kinds of meetings, which are actually real, physical. So here we are with a book that chronicles those very physical meetings in this virtual space. So now I'll actually, Gita, how do we want to go? Should we ask Shankaraiah to speak first, or shall we get, because I think Ilaiah will have to get calls from Rama Melkote till she gets in. So should I ask Shankaraiah to go first?
No, I think you should stick to Ilaiah starting.
Okay. So
Give Shankaraiah a little time to get
I'm
up.
here.
Okay, Ilaiah. Okay. Ilaiah, so you have read the book. Your endorsement leads the book. You said we have to say something about her being a Brahmin woman right in the title. We remember that exchange. But here we are with this book, Land, Guns, Caste, Woman. So those of you who haven't got it, please go ahead and order it. So Ilaiah, what did you think about this book? You have said it in a blurb, of course. Is there something, and you have known Gita far longer than me, since the Nalupur days, even before that, you have seen her through many things, but you didn't know about her childhood, about her kind of growing up years, and even her life in with the Naxalite movement, I suppose. So what did you overall make sense of the book?
Well, first of all, I'm glad Gita has written her memoirs at a time when she is further struggling after Cyril's death and living alone, even her daughter is abroad and so on. I found that this book is very, very important for three components that this book brings out. The first component is Gita's childhood life. This kind of a childhood life of a Brahmin girl and the kind of cultural life that the Brahmin household has given to their children, and they all of them are girls, and here is a family which really seriously educated the family girl children. Normally by our age, very few even highly educated, our father was an engineer, educated Brahmins were educating their daughters beyond maybe some Bharatanatyam or something, but in a serious English medium Catholic school to become professionals. And she has shown the contrast between the English medium school, that I would stress on English medium, and our home, the kind of cultural etiquette that the family maintains, how children eat, what should they, where should they sit, and particularly that issue that I mentioned in my print article has really struck me, that the kind of superstitious life that they inject into the children, the two female children, around menstruation, around childbirth. And it very much impresses when Gita writes the story how she began to fight that from her scientific understanding at that age. So how her sister reacted to that and so on and so forth. Then of course, Gita's evolution into the very, very troublesome, serious, challenging, life-threatening Naxalite movement. And from then on, I know more than Gita, I know Lalita, I know Rukmini, because they were my seniors. And they were a kind of, political heroines, and Rama Melkote was in the background as a student. I also know her as my political science department person. So Gita's life within the very dangerous, life-threatening, armed struggle Naxalite movement, and how she went on keeping her normative rationalism within the Marxist ideology, and then started challenging there, and then she was getting into a kind of political relationship, first with Cyril, and later on she got married. And then how she fought back the family torture to take her away. I mean, the story tells us that the family was really interested in her intellectuality, that she would become a collector, IAS, and so on, and wanted to save her from Naxalism, and what kind of cruel treatment that the family gave. So between these two, how Gita navigated her life and then evolved into a married kind of a life. I know Cyril also, it's very difficult to, I don't know, I mean, within the given context, Cyril is also a person of his own lifestyle and then very self-right kind of a person. So she navigated that life and then fought against the very oppressive conditions within the revolution. These are two shades of Gita's life. But the third aspect, which comes out in a very expanded way in the book, is her involvement with the Dalit life. As she herself says, all of us were part of that Karam Chedu thing, and Gita and that team did an elaborate report on Karam Chedu and so on. And like many of us, I can also see the impact of George on her life. George is not her internal family member like what he was to Cyril, but I see more impact on Gita's life by the George struggle and his intellectual orientation and thinking and reading. Not only in the beginning of Naxalite movement, the way she fought the family, otherwise he would have, as he said several times, he thought of committing suicide as well. But I think there is that fundamental steel built into it, taking perhaps from George life. George life influenced me in several ways. Then the way she conducted herself in Ibrahimpatnam struggle and with the Dalits. You know, I was reading and speaking about Pandita Ramabai, who fought a very conservative Brahmin environment. She was a Sanskrit Pandit herself to a level where she got a doctorate kind of a degree and then became a Christian. Then began to fight her. So Gita, in a different way, she did not become Christian or anything, though her in-laws' life is a Christian family life. Many accuse that now even today. So see, the way she mingled with Dalit struggles and the village Dalits went through all kinds of problems. You know, I remember I described in a graphic way in my own autobiography how my sisters, my mother used to struggle with the open toileting in the village and how sitting around the roads, men going and coming and how women struggle. So she narrates our problems there in the villages with the toilet, having come from a urban middle-class Brahmin family. So the way she conducted the struggle achieved certainly remarkable things in a small area struggle, and it's certainly set an example of possible liberation from bondage. So this book brings out all these stories in a very, very powerful narrative manner, and the language that she built into it, the communication. I think it seems to be Shanta. Many wrote blurbs for that. It seems, I think I remember Shanta seems to have said it is going to be a classic in one sense. Certainly, it would have a lot of discourse value, a lot of education value for girls, for younger generations. And my overall feeling, the book has come out well. The content as well as the production and even the cover was good. But I was checking how it is as a pre-publication order is going on Amazon. If the title were to be slightly different, it would have been by now bestseller, #1 bestseller.
I thought of a title today, the cow who ate beef, but so I said the cow who ate beef. You know, you want to say something provocative.
Okay.
Yeah. So because I was thinking of
all that is
Mahasweta.
over.
Yeah,
All that is over, and the book is going to be in the market tomorrow. I hope it will do well, and a lot of discussion needs to be organized around for future implications of her life and struggle and experience, both for caste issue, both for personal family issue, and third, also how the land-related struggles and Dalit life will have serious implications even in future, though Marxist movement, revolutionary movements are gradually dying down in the right-wing phase of India. Still, I think the book tells a story that such struggles in various corners are required to liberate the area and group, Dalits and Adivasis, and many lower OBCs and so on. So that is my view. I think it is certainly a remarkable book, which tells a great story for future generations.
Thank you, Ilaiah garu. So Shankaraiah garu, can you మీరు ఆ సౌండ్ ఆన్ చేసుకుంటారా అక్కడ?
సార్
ఇంతసేపు ఐలయ్య గారు ఏం చెప్పినారే నేను ఒక 2-3 లైన్లు మీకు చెప్పడానికి ప్రయత్నిస్తాను. ఏంటంటే ఇప్పుడు గీత ముందు జీవితం అంటే ఒక బాపన కుటుంబంలో పుట్టి ఎట్లా ఇంగ్లీష్ నేర్చుకుంటది, ఇంట్లో ఎట్లాంటి పిచ్చిదనాలు చేస్తారు వాళ్ళు, ఒక ఆడపిల్లగా ఉంటే ప్లస్ ఒక బాపన కుటుంబంలో పుడితే ఎట్లా ఏమేమి జరుగుతుంది, ఇది అంతటికీ బయట ఎలా వచ్చింది, దానిలో జార్జ్ రెడ్డి ఇన్ఫ్లుయెన్స్ ఏముండే, ఇవంతా మీకు ఇప్పుడు గీత ఇబ్రాహీంపట్నం వచ్చినప్పుడు ఈ పాత కథ అంతా మీకు ఎంత తెలుసు? ఇప్పుడు ఈమె బాపనామె, ఈమెను ఇందిరమ్మ అనేవాళ్ళు, ఈ కథలన్నీ బుక్ లో ఉన్నాయి మీరు చేసినవన్నీ. So what I'm asking him is, Ilaiah knows a certain kind of Gita, reads a certain kind of Gita through the book, whereas when Shankaraiah meets Gita, how much of this background, of a Brahminical background and the baggage, plus ఆమె నక్సలైట్ కూడా ఉండి తర్వాత వచ్చింది మీ కాడ. ఇప్పుడు ఇదంతా మీరు ఎట్లా చూసినారు? మీ కథ ఏంటి, మీ కథ గీతతో ఏంటి?
ఓకే సార్, ఫస్ట్ అందరికీ నమస్తే. ఐలయ్య సార్ కూడా చాలా ఆయన ఒక బుక్ రాసిండు ఒకప్పుడు. నేను బాగా యాక్టివిస్ట్గా ఉన్నప్పుడు ఐలయ్య సారు నేను ఎందుకు ఎట్లయితే అని ఒక బుక్ ఉండేది అప్పుడు. అది నేను అంటే బాగా దాన్ని ఇది చేసినారు చదివినప్పట్లో. అంటే గీత రావడం అనేది 80s లో 84-85 ఆ టైంలో గీత జస్ట్ ఏదో పుస్తకాలకు సంబంధించి ఏదో వస్తుంది అనేది పరిచయం మాకు. బుక్స్ సంబంధించిన దానికి చట్టాలు ఏదో బుక్స్ వేస్తారంట, అంతవరకే. అనేది యాక్టివిస్ట్గా రాలేదు. ఫస్ట్ వచ్చినాక ఈ ఏరియా అంతా ఇబ్రాహీంపట్నం ఏరియా కొన్ని ఊర్లు తిరిగినాక అప్పుడు ఒక ఐడియా వచ్చింది ఆమెకు కూడా, మాకు కూడా. మేము కూడా అంటే మేము అగ్రికల్చర్ ఫ్యామిలీ, మేము వ్యవసాయం చేసుకుని బతికే వాళ్ళం. ఎడ్యుకేషన్ కూడా ఎక్కువ లేకుండా 10th క్లాస్ చదివి ఏదో వ్యవసాయం చేసుకునే టైంలో గీత మెల్లగా ఒక బుక్స్ రాస్తారు, చట్టాల గురించి ఒక బుక్స్, అవి మినిమం వేస్ అనేది దాని మీద జస్ట్ అట్లా తిరిగింది మాతో పాటు సైకిల్ మీద. అంటే మాకు అప్పుడు సైకిలే, ఇప్పుడు బైక్ కంటే ఎక్కువ, కార్ కంటే ఎక్కువ ఒక సైకిల్ ఉండే, సైకిల్ మీద వెళ్ళే వాళ్ళం ఊర్లో పండి తొక్కుంటూ. గీత కూడా మాతో పాటు సైకిల్ ఒక 1 వీక్ అట్లా 10 days అట్లా సైకిల్ నేర్చుకుంది మామూలు తొక్కుంటూ. అంటే ఇద్దరం ఒకే సైకిల్ మీద, ముగ్గురు ఒకే సైకిల్ మీద పోవడం పాసిబుల్ కాకుండే అప్పుడు రోడ్లు లేవు, మట్టి రోడ్లు. సైకిల్ ఒకరే ఎక్కువ.
శంకరయ్య గారు ఇప్పుడు మీరు కొంచెం కొంచెం చెప్తే నేను దాన్ని ఇంగ్లీష్ లో వీళ్ళకి చెప్తా, ఎందుకంటే వాళ్ళు ఏమో జరుగుతుంది ఏమో అర్థం కాదు అనుకుంటూ కూర్చుంటారు చాలా మంది. నేను వీళ్ళకి చెప్పేస్తా, ఇప్పటిదాకా చెప్పిన కథ చెప్తా. గీత వచ్చి నా తల పని పెట్టింది, ఆమెకు పని పెడితే నాకు పని పెట్టింది. గీత ట్రాన్స్లేట్ చేయవా నువ్వు? అందరికీ ఎవ్రీవన్ లో పెట్టిన కామెంట్. So what Shankaraiah is saying is basically when Gita came and first he said hello to Ilaiah, how he is familiar with his book, Why I'm Not a Hindu, Nenu Hindu and etlaita. Then he read it in Telugu, and his association with Gita Ramaswamy was primarily with also about HBT. They've sold a lot of books, he says, together. And back then all this was done on cycle, more than a bike, more than a car. People cycled, and he said they cycled with these books. If you read the book, there's a lot of walking in the book. There's a lot of walking which becomes necessary. So Geeta, did I miss anything broadly?
Well, he said I took about 5 to 10 days to learn to cycle, because the roads were bad, and you couldn't ride pillion or ride triples on a cycle. So I learned to cycle and then went around the area.
That is you?
Yeah.
So there are hilarious stories in the book about what all she does when she learns cycling and how she learns it. So Shankaraiah garu మీరు ముందు చెప్పండి. ఇప్పుడు చెప్పండి, అప్పుడప్పుడు వీళ్ళకి అనువాదం చేయాలి.
ఓకే సార్,
మీరు కంటిన్యూ అవ్వండి.
సైకిల్ త్రిబుల్స్ పోలేం కాబట్టి గీతనే ఒక సైకిల్ తెచ్చుకుంది మాతో పాటు, హైదరాబాద్ తెచ్చుకుని నేర్చుకుంది 1 week 10 days సొంతంగా. మేమందరం సైకిల్ మీద మట్టి రోడ్లు కదా, కింద జారి కింద పడుకుంటూ అట్లా కొద్దిగా స్లిప్ అయి కింద పడడం అవన్నీ జరిగినాయి. ఉద్దేశం అంటే ఏదేం జరిగినా ఊర్లు తిరిగినాక గీతకు ఒక ఐడియా వచ్చి ఉంటుంది. మేము అనుకునే వాళ్ళం, మాకు అప్పటికి ఏం నాలెడ్జ్ ఏం లేదు. ఎందుకు పోతున్నావు, ఏదో ఊరికి పోతాం, ఏదో నైటీ స్కూల్స్ చెప్తాం, అంతవరకే. ఆ ఊరికి పోతున్నాం, ఏ ఊరికి పోతున్నాం, నైటీ స్కూల్స్ మొదలు పెడుతున్నాం, గీత ఏదో బుక్స్ రాస్తున్నా, అంతవరకే ఐడియా ఉంది. ఆ టైంలోనే మాకేం జరిగిందంటే విలేజ్ లో మేము ఎక్కువ ఏ ఊరికి వెళ్ళినా బాండెడ్ లేబర్, మినిమం వేజెస్ కింద కూలీలు ఎక్కువ మంది. ఏ ఊరికి వెళ్ళినా 150 పర్ మంత్, 70 rupees 80 rupees మినిమం వేజెస్. 20, 30, 40 years ఏజ్ ఉన్న వాళ్ళకు పర్ డే. ఉమెన్ వర్కింగ్ ఓన్లీ 2 rupees పర్ డే వర్కింగ్ చేస్తే. ఇదే కనిపించేది ఏ ఊరికి వెళ్ళినా. 2 rupees 5 rupees మంత్ 80 rupees, అంటే హైయెస్ట్ మ్యాక్సిమం 80, 50 to 80. అంటే దాని మీద ఒక ఐడియా వచ్చిన తర్వాత అప్పుడు మినిమం వేజెస్ యాక్ట్ అని ఒకటి ఉంది, చట్టం ఒకటి ఉంది. పోస్టర్లు పెట్టి మనం కూడా చేయొచ్చు కదా, మనం అందరికి గవర్నమెంట్ చేసిన చట్టాన్ని మనం అందరికి ఈ విలేజెస్కి అందరికి మనం చేస్తే ఇంకా బాగుంటుంది. అందరికి తెలుస్తుంది ఇట్లా ఒక చట్టం ఉంది, మనం ఈ చట్టంలో ఉన్నాయి, మీరు ఇవ్వాలి, ఇంత తక్కువ ఇస్తారు అనేది. అప్పట్లో మేము చేస్తున్నప్పుడు మినిమం వేజెస్ 130 rupees ఉండేది ఫర్ మంత్. అంటే యాక్ట్ వీళ్ళకి ఇచ్చేది 50 rupees టు హైయెస్ట్ 80. మినిమం వేజ్ 8 rupees ఉంటే 2 rupees ఆర్ 3, హైయెస్ట్ 6, 5, అదే హైయెస్ట్. అంటే ఇక్కడ ఉన్న రెడ్డిలు ఇచ్చేది. దానికి కొంత ఏం చేయాలి, దీని మీద ఎట్లా మంత్ ఇట్లా వేస్తే జనాలకు కొంత ప్రాబ్లం ఉందనేది బాగా చేసిన తర్వాత ఒక చట్టం ఉంది, ఈ చట్టాన్ని మనం అన్ని విలేజెస్ మనం దీన్ని ప్రాపగండ చేయాలనేది గీత ఐడియా. మాకు బాగా ఇట్లా చెప్తే మేము కూడా కొద్దిగా చదువుకున్నాం కాబట్టి అరే చట్టం ఉందా ఇట్లా అనేది. మినిమం వేజ్ యాక్ట్ అని ఒకటి 26 లో ఒకటి ఏర్పడింది, ఇట్లా ఉంది అనేది తెలియదు. ఇక్కడ పొలిటీషియన్ కానీ గవర్నమెంట్ ఎవ్వరు దీని మీద నాలెడ్జే లేదు.
శంకరయ్య గారు మళ్ళీ గీత గారిని ఇదంతా చెప్పమంట కొంచెం. వీళ్ళకి ఎవరికి తెలుగు చాలా తక్కువ మందికి తెలుసు. మన హైదరాబాద్ లో తెలంగాణ వాళ్ళు కొందరికి తెలుసు, ఇక్కడ 80 మంది పైన ఉన్నారు, ఒక 10 మందికే తెలుసు. గీత.
He says that when we were going around together, that is Shankaraiah and the others, were not much aware of what needed to be done. They knew about night schools, but not much else. And so he says it was my idea to go around and talk with villagers. And when we went around and talked to the villagers, we found that there was a lot of bonded labor going on. About 50 to 100 bonded laborers in each village. And they were getting wages from, in kind, that is in paddy, from about 50 to 80. 80 was the maximum they were getting, though the minimum wage was 180. And daily wages were also very low. Women were getting rupees 2 or even less than that. So that was the situation when we started going around villages. Shankaraiah.
Shankaraiah garu.
అట్లా జరుగుతున్న తరుణంలో కొంత చట్టం ఉందనేది అన్ని విలేజ్ కు ఒక మెసేజ్ ఇచ్చినాం. ఊరూరికి ఇట్లా ఒక చట్టం ఉంది, ఒక పోస్టర్ అలా ఒక ప్రింట్ చేసి ఇట్లా ఉంది ఇట్లా ఉంది ఇట్లా ఉంది ఆ ప్రింట్ చేసి అన్ని ఒక 20-30 ఊర్లు స్టార్టింగ్ చేస్తే అప్పుడున్న అక్కడ లోకల్ ల్యాండ్ లార్డ్స్ ఎవరైతే ఉన్నారో వీళ్ళు ఈ చట్టం లేదు వీళ్ళు కావాలని చేస్తున్నారని బాగా మాకు యాంటీ గ్రూప్ ఒకటి అప్పుడు ఫామ్ అయింది. అంటే ఈ సంఘం రానియదు ఊర్లకి, ఈ సంఘం వచ్చడం మూలాలు ఏదో చట్టం కట్టేది ఉంది, ఈ చట్టం వీళ్ళేదో ఏదో ప్రింట్ చేసుకొస్తారు అనేది కొంత యాంటీ గ్రూపు విలేజ్ ప్రతి ఊర్లో యాంటీ గ్రూప్ స్టార్ట్ అయింది. అప్పుడు వీళ్ళని కొట్టాలి, వీళ్ళ ఊర్లోకి రానియద్దు, మీటింగ్లు పెట్టినద్దు, ఇవన్నీ చేస్తే మాకు అగ్రికల్చర్ నడవదు మాది. అంత వేజ్ మేము ఇచ్చుకోలేము, అంత వేజ్కి ఇక్కడ పంటలు రావట్లేదు. కానీ ల్యాండ్ ప్రతి ఊర్లో యాంటీ గ్రూప్ ఏర్పడింది, బాగా గ్రూప్ ఏర్పడింది. దాని మీద కొట్టడం కూడా జరిగింది కొంతమందిని. ఈ లేబర్ ఎవరైతే మీరు సంఘంలోకి పోతే మేము అంతం మా జీతాలు వద్దు అట్లా కొద్దిగా యాంటీగా మాకు ప్రచారం జరిగింది. అంటే అప్పుడు కొంతమంది మా దాంట్లో మాతో పాటు కొంతమంది పనిచేసిన ఏదైతే యాక్టివిస్ట్ టీం ఉన్నామో టీం కూడా కొంతమంది టీంలో ఉన్న వాళ్ళు కూడా భయం అయింది. అరే ఆ రెడ్డికి వ్యతిరేకంగా సర్పంచ్ వ్యతిరేకంగా మనం ఇట్లా అయితే మమ్మల్ని కొడతారు, మాకు ఫ్యూచర్ ఉండదు ఆ ఊర్లో అని మాతో పాటు యాక్టివిస్ట్ లో పనిచేసే వాళ్ళు కొంతమంది వెళ్ళిపోయారు. మేము ఇంకా ఈ స్ట్రగుల్ యాంటీగా ల్యాండ్ లార్డ్కి యాంటీగా మేము ఈ సంఘంలో ఉండలేము, కష్టమైతే ఇది మేము మాకు ఫ్యూచర్ ఇబ్బంది అయితే మేము ఉండమని కొంతమంది వెళ్ళిపోయారు మా దాంట్లోకి. అంటే అప్పుడు ఒక 8-10 మెంబర్స్ పనిచేసే వాళ్ళు 90 స్కూల్స్ అని అందరూ వదిలిపెట్టారు. లాస్ట్ కు
శంకరయ్య గారు ఒక నిమిషము మళ్ళీ
ట్రాన్స్లేట్ చేయమా? So we went around villages talking about the laws that are applicable for bonded labor and minimum wages. And when we did so, we found that landlords in each village started mobilizing against us. We found groups that were actively, conspiring against us, threatening us. They even beat some of us. And they said, if we get these laws into place, we can't farm anymore because we don't get profits enough to pay the kind of wages that you're talking of. Shankaraiah.
అట్లా జరిగినప్పుడు కొంత ఈ చట్టాన్ని సపోర్ట్ చేసుకొని గవర్నమెంట్ సపోర్ట్ చేసుకొని గీత కూడా ఇట్లా మనలో ఏదైనా సరే మనం చేయొచ్చు, వీళ్ళు ఏం చేయలేరు అనేది కొంతమంది, అంటే నేను ఒక బుగ్గాయన ఒక ఆయన కొంతమంది మళ్ళా కొద్దిగా ఎట్లయినా సరే చేద్దాంలే అనేది స్ట్రాంగ్ గా డిసిషన్ తీసుకున్నాం. వెళ్ళిపోయిన వాళ్ళు పోయినా కూడా నాతో పాటు ఒక 2-3 ఉండి ఎట్లయినా చేద్దాం చూద్దాం దీని అనేది దాని మీద ఉన్నాం. ఎంత యాంటీ వచ్చినా కూడా అది మెల్లగా బాండ్ లెవెల్ కింద అప్లికేషన్ పెట్టి కలెక్టర్ దగ్గరికి పోయి మనం ధర్నా చేయాలి, మనం అట్లా మన చట్టం ఉంది కదా, మినిమం యాక్ట్ కాకుండా బాండ్ లేబర్ యాక్ట్ ఉంది 76 ప్రకారం మనం ఎందుకు చట్టం ఉంది కదా, బాండ్ లేబర్ కూడా మనం పెట్టాం బాండ్ లేబర్ పెట్టి వాళ్ళకు గవర్నమెంట్ కూడా బాగా సపోర్ట్ చేసింది. అప్పట్లో మాకు స్టార్టింగ్ లో గవర్నమెంట్ ఎవరన్నా జీతం ఉంటే వాళ్ళకి రిలీజ్ చేయాలి, వాళ్ళకు ఆ రిహాబిలిటేషన్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ కూడా దానికి సపోర్ట్ చేసిండ్రు. అప్పుడు నాకు తెలిసి సుధీర్ అనే కలెక్టర్ అనుకుంటాం మేబీ స్టార్టింగ్ లో, వాళ్ళు అఫీషియల్స్ కూడా బాగా సపోర్ట్ చేసారు. ఇక మేము ఒక 20 ఊర్లలో స్టార్ట్ చేసింది, దాదాపు 4 మండలాలు 120 గ్రామాల్లో అది ఎక్స్పాండ్ అయిపోయింది. అది ఇట్లా జీతం వస్తుందంట, ఇట్లా సంఘం ఉందంట, ఇట్లా బాండ్ లేబర్ ఎక్కడున్నా సరే జీతాలు కూలీ చేసే వాళ్ళందరికీ మనకు ఒక చట్టం ఉందంట అనేది ఎక్స్పాన్షన్ కూడా బాగా జరిగింది.
గీత
he says we did not get frightened by the threats, and we continue to go around the villages and mobilize people. And we filed petitions with the district administration. Initially, there was a collector, Sudhir, and we found good support from the administration. They released the bonded laborers, and very soon, what we had started in 4 villages spread to around 4 mandals. Around 80 villages in 4 mandals, and bonded laborers started mobilizing themselves and told themselves that there is a Sangam which supports us. Let us get behind this. Shankaraiah.
దాంట్లో ఆ సపోర్ట్ గవర్నమెంట్ బాగానే సపోర్ట్ చేయడం మూలన మామూలు జనం కూడా, అంటే ఒక క్యాస్ట్ ఎస్సీలే బీసీలే కాకుండా అన్ని క్యాస్ట్ లో ఉన్న బాండెడ్ లేబర్, అన్ని క్యాస్ట్ లో ఉన్న ఇన్నోవేస్ నష్టపోతున్న వాళ్ళంతా కూడా కొద్దిగా మాకు బాగా సపోర్ట్ చేయడం జరిగింది. దాంతో మేము వాళ్ళ ఒక 1-2 విలేజెస్ లో అయితే కొంతమంది ల్యాండ్ లార్డ్స్ మీద కేసు పెట్టి వాళ్ళను ఇది చేసినాం. అంటే ఈ బాండ్ లేబర్ చట్టంలో ఎవరైతే మనకు యాంటీగా చేస్తారో వాళ్ళ మీద కేసు పెట్టి పోలీస్ స్టేషన్లో కేసు బుక్ చేసి రెగ్యులర్ గా పోలీస్ స్టేషన్ కూడా జరిగేటప్పుడు కొంత భయపడ్డారు అంతా. అప్పుడు మేబీ నాకు గుర్తుంది తెలుగుదేశం గవర్నమెంట్ ఉండింది అనుకుంటున్నాను నేను. ఎన్టీ రామారావు గవర్నమెంట్ ఉంది. బట్ అప్పుడు మేము ఇంకా రెడ్లంతా ఒక గ్రూప్ కావడం, మేమంతా ఒక గ్రూప్ కావడం, అంటే ఇదంతా ఒక 2 years జరిగింది బాగా. అంత ఓన్లీ బాండ్ లేబర్ కదా, అది బాగా క్లిక్ అయింది. అంటే అన్ని ఊర్లో కూడా ఎక్కడైనా సపోర్ట్, ఒక్కొక్క ఊర్లో 100 మంది 200 మంది అట్లా 120 గ్రామాలు దాని మీద, అన్ని గ్రామాలు క్లీన్ గా. అక్కడక్కడ కొంతమంది పారిపోయిన వాళ్ళు పటేల్ భయానికి, ఆ రెడ్ల భయానికి పారిపోయి అమ్మో ఇక్కడికి మినిమం జీతగాళ్ళు ఉండరు, వాళ్ళు పారిపోయారు. కొంతమంది చిన్న పిల్లలు కూడా, అంటే 7 years 8 years పిల్లలు కూడా బాండ్ లేబర్ కింద పనిచేస్తున్న వాళ్ళు. బడిలు గిడిలు ఏం లేదు, స్కూల్స్ కూడా లేవు, అందరూ పశువులకు ఆడుకోవాలి అంతే చిన్నపిల్లలు.
శంకరయ్య గారు మళ్ళీ గీత మళ్ళీ దీన్ని ఇంగ్లీష్ లో చెప్తుంది. దానికి ముందు గీత, ఇప్పుడు నెక్స్ట్ మిమ్మల్ని ఏం అడగాలనుకున్నానంటే నేను, ఇప్పుడు గీత వచ్చింది. సో బేసిక్లీ మై క్వశ్చన్ టు Shankaraiah after Gita translates is this. 14,000 roughly, he's describing the struggle, how it spread across 4 districts, how they took on, they even filed cases on Reddy landlords sometimes, and they dragged them to court. He had a particular thrill and smile on his face when he was saying that book. And he said there was a trans-caste kind of unity and solidarity that was forged. So there were BCs who were working with Dalits. There was some kind of, like in the book Gita says, an idea of annihilation of caste as a community, as a sense of belonging, as an associated mode of being, is what Gita book talks about. That is what Shankaraiah was saying. So I've summarized what he said. So Shankaraiah garu, ipudu ఈ ఇట్లా అన్ని చోట్ల ఇది స్ప్రెడ్ అయింది, ల్యాండ్ వచ్చింది. తర్వాత 93 కాడ గీతమ్మ మూమెంట్, ఇప్పుడు ఈ కూలీ సంఘం వదిలి, ఇప్పుడు దీని తర్వాత ఏం చేయాలని తోచకుండా ఏమో కారణాలు ఉన్నాయి, బుక్ లో రాసింది దాని గురించి. ఎట్లా ఎందుకు వచ్చింది, బయటకు ఎందుకు వచ్చింది అనేది రాసింది. ఇప్పుడు అప్పటికి ఇప్పటికి మళ్ళీ 20 ఏళ్ళు వచ్చినాయా? 93 to now, how much is it? 30 years now. 30 ఏళ్ళు అయినాయి. 30 దగ్గర 30 ఏళ్ళు అయినాయి. సో ఇప్పుడు పాత కథలు చెప్పుకొని మనము అట్లే ఉన్నామా, లేక ఇప్పుడు జరిగే ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఏంటి? So I'm asking him, this book documents those the wonderful struggle up to 1993, and that's where the memoir ends. It's not the full life of Gita that has been written. It stops at a point around the age when Gita is aged 40, and there are reasons. You read the book to know the reasons. But what happened after that is what I was asking Shankaraiah. తర్వాత ఏం జరిగింది? తర్వాత ఎలా ఇప్పుడు సడన్ గా అట్లా ఆగిపోయిందా? తర్వాత మీరు మూమెంట్ ఏమైనా చేసినారా? ఇప్పటి పరిస్థితి ఏంటి?
ఇప్పటి పరిస్థితి అంటే ఇప్పుడు ఈ బుక్ అంటే ఈ ఇష్యూస్ బాగానే జరిగినాయి. ఇప్పుడు అన్ని అంటే యాజ్ అన్ ఈ రోజు కూడా నేను ఫీల్ అవుతున్నది ఏంటంటే, అప్పుడు ఓపెన్ గా దోపిడీ జరిగింది, ఓపెన్ గా రెడ్డిలు వచ్చింది కొట్లాటకు. ఇప్పుడు ఓపెన్ గా రావట్లేదు. ఇప్పుడు కూడా ఉన్నాయి అన్యాయాలు, అక్రమాలు, ల్యాండ్ ర్యాబరింగ్స్ ఇప్పుడు కూడా ఉన్నాయి పెద్ద పెద్దవి. కానీ ఇప్పుడు తీరు వేరు, తీరు మారింది ఇప్పుడు. ఎందుకంటే అప్పుడు ల్యాండ్ లార్డ్ సపరేట్, గవర్నమెంట్ ఒక రంగంగా తక్కువ ఉండేది, గవర్నమెంట్ ఒకటి, ల్యాండ్ లార్డ్స్ ఒక రకం ఉండేది. ఇప్పుడు ల్యాండ్ లార్డ్సే గవర్నమెంట్ చేతులు ఉంది. ఇప్పుడు ల్యాండ్ లార్డ్స్ గవర్నమెంట్ తక్కువ ఉండే, ల్యాండ్ లార్డ్ తక్కువ మంది ల్యాండ్ లార్డ్ చేతిలో గవర్నమెంట్ ఉండేది అప్పట్లో. ఇప్పుడు 80% ల్యాండ్ లార్డ్స్ ఎవరైతే ఈ డబ్బున వాళ్ళు ఎవరైతే ఉండరో గవర్నమెంటే వాళ్ళ చేతులు ఉంది. ఇప్పుడు నేను ఇప్పుడు యాజ్ ఆన్ ఈ రోజుకి నేను గమనిస్తున్నది, ఇప్పుడు ఇష్యూస్ ఉన్నాయి, ఇప్పుడు ల్యాండ్ ఇష్యూస్ జరుగుతున్నాయి, పెద్ద పెద్ద ఇష్యూస్ ఉన్నాయి. ఒక్కొక్క నేను ఈ మధ్య ఒక విలేజ్ పోతే 1000 acres ఒక ఫ్యామిలీ చేతులు ఉంది. యాజ్ ఆన్ ఈ రోజుకి గవర్నమెంటే వాళ్ళ చేతులు ఉంది ఈ రోజుకి.
Gita, will you just come in on that? You have to unmute, Gita.
Yes, what he says is, I mean, Anand asked him to talk about present day developments, and Shankaraiah said that where earlier the exploitation and oppression was naked and brutal, now that has gone, but it still exists in a very subtle form. And Earlier, there was some distance between the state and landlords, but now he feels that distance has been reduced and the state is totally in the hands of landlords. He recounts one of his recent visits to a village where 1,000 acres is under the control of one particular family. This is a village Ajilapuram, which I also write about in the book, which is a very tragic case. We were unable to help them. That is the village he is referring to. Shankaraiah?
Yes, sir.
శంకరయ్య గారు ఇక్కడ మనతో పాల్ దివాకర్ కూడా ఉన్నారు. I also want to throw it open to people who are featured in the book. So hello Paul, after a very long time. Can you unmute yourself? Paul Divakar garu meeku పరిచయం కదా శంకరయ్య గారు? So now Shankaraiah knows Paul, and Paul's place is where Gita, does this testing the waters. She goes there, looks at the rocks. Paul's brother, is he also there today? Did he manage to get on Zoom? So Paul, it all started with Paul, who is with the NCDHR campaign. As far as I knew Paul, I knew him from what he told me was his Chittoor days. So I came to know a different Paul and Annie in this book. When you also encounter a different Ilaiah and a different Paul Divakar here. Paul, would you like to say something? Paul ni maatladuvantunna koncham Shankaraiah.
Okay.
Well, it's wonderful.
Sir, namaste.
Namaste, Shankarana. Nice to see you.
10 years, 20 years.
Yes. And namaste, John, TD John Ilaiah. Nice to see you. And of course, Gita. Yeah, I think my journey with Gita and Cyril, probably it was more Gita than Cyril at the time, started when she said that there's a book she wanted to translate, where there is no doctor. Am I right, Gita? I think that was the pretext. She
had to do research for that book.
Yeah, I mean, later I came to know it was only a way in which she would also encounter that part of Ibrahimpattan. And I think it was really phenomenal. We didn't realize it at that time, but the work that Gita and of course Shankaraiah, Bugaya and several others were there, she grouped them, was in a way looked at how do you break the slavery that existed. It's nothing but slavery. Jitagalu, I think in the north you call it Begar. It's a total bonded labor. And some of us were working there without realizing the heinous crime of the slavery that was there. And for us, it was a kind of a normative thing that once we get into that village life. But then it was Gita, Ibrahimpatnam Vyavasaya Kuli Sangam, I think she has initiated. I had to leave for Chittoor because we had a major incident with my family. My mother was murdered and my father was alone. So we had to shift to Chittoor around the same time. But I think that whole experience shook the district, and also later there was a union that later Gita and Cyril and all of us together, John is here, we had initiated across the state. Of course, it did not get to that proportion, but the work that Gita has initiated, not just releasing of bonded labor, and I think we should, I'm sure, Gita, I didn't have a chance yet to see the book, but I'm sure Mr. Shankaran Garu was there with his own very, very, his very unique style, had strongly supported this whole releasing of the bonded labor. But after that, I think there is also the issues of land and atrocities. I do not know, Gita and Shankaraiah, you remember I think it was a person by name Bugaya was killed in I think it was Khanapur, no? In the near Khanapur.
Juttu Narsaya eliminated.
Eliminate కాదు. Gungal దగ్గర. Gungal దగ్గర.
Yeah, that is the first thing.
That was
before
the first.
actually. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was the first time. Sorry? Yeah?
He was electrocuted.
ఎక్కడ?
Electrocuted. He was electrocuted.
He was electrocuted ante he was beaten to death, and then he was thrown on the fence. And then the union said that we should not take that, and then that's how the whole caste thing came, because he is Madiga from the area, and then it was Gita and Cyril. I remember it was done under the banner of Dalit Mahasabha. We didn't understand at the time. I mean, we didn't see either Tarakam Garu or Katti Padmarao at the time, but we conducted, and I think under the leadership of Cyril and Gita, we had even exhumed the body after 7 days. 7-8 days, and then got the case, got some compensation, and of course the case was turned differently. But I think these incidents shook the whole district around that time, and it's really a phenomenal work, very intense, which carried on for about 6 years. Gita, Shankaraiah, our samsara jarigindi kada.
Avunu. Yes.
Yeah. Paul, apologies for not. I have a list of people. Gita, we should make that list again of people who don't necessarily have to endorse the book, but who are part of actors in the book. Paul, I'll send you the book. You shouldn't be buying it.
No, I'll buy it. You don't worry.
You should buy it, but I would love to give you a copy, because things start in Jalal Miapalli, where you're there, right? You know, so with your brother. And she's cycling around. Cycle is becomes so important. But what I wanted to ask you, Paul, was you were running Water Development Society there, and you were there from some years before even Gita came, and you were saying that what looked normative, you know, so from then to doing National Campaign for Dalit Human Rights, and this was being done by Gita and others simply because everywhere you saw Madigas were in some kind of a position where it was completely illegal, everything about it. So how is it that this was something that both the Naxalite movement misses and also the NGOized sector, let's say, and how did this witnessing this for a few years when Gita was around, and you moved away from there, from Jalal Miapalli, that is also described. So what do you think has changed in the way we look at caste from then to now?
No, I think no, I don't think we can use the word NGOization, because the NGOs at that time, at that period, immediately after the emergency, and John and others can also hear, Narsima is also here. There were two types of NGOs. I remember there were one set of NGOs who were looking at legal education. We were looking at issues of bonded labor, issues of land, and that had continued when I had moved to Chittoor, and later together with about maybe about 80 NGOs together, we have formed Vyavasaya Andhra Pradesh Vyavasaya Kuli Samakhya, which is a federation of the trade unions that had started, and that carried on till about 12-15 years across the whole, what we call now Andhra and Telangana, and about almost a greater part of Andhra and Telangana, but very much there. I think here John is here, Narsima is here. John was the first general secretary of that. With Cyril, we had so that was primarily done. Of course, Cyril and Gita were the key inspirers of that, but it was carried out by NGOs. So the NGOization you talk about is different. You know, that's maybe child rights and all that had come much later. But we, from the beginning, I remember, we were trying to drill down to some of the key concerns And then the realization that it's not a class anymore. It is caste, and without understanding the structure and the relationship of caste, it's very difficult to actually look at any human rights issues was the way. I think even Ilaiah was with OPDR at that time. What is OPDR? I don't know. We used to know Ilaiah as OPDR.
I was with OPDR, yes.
Yeah, and you were asking us that
please expand OPDR.
Organization for Protection of Democratic Rights.
Democratic rights, right? So it probably all of us, our journey into realization of caste, our own caste especially, and looking at and traveling through the layers of caste, which then question the system, has actually, that was probably the base. And then and then from there in 1998, the whole initiation of the National Campaign on Dalit Human Rights would be a progression that I see.
Ilaiah, if you're around, I want you back on a little thing, and then we'll go to Gita and throw it open to anybody who wants to talk about the book. So like Paul was saying, how this whole thing of caste permeating everything, and then you're seeing it. Now Gita is doing this from 84, 85 onwards, at a time when you were not in your Vayam, not a Hindu phase. So this was before Mandal. This was before Babri issue. And by the time Babri and Mandalan happened by 93, 94, Gita is on her way out. What we see as the Ibrahimpatnam Kuli Vyavasaya Sangam struggle happens well before even, and plus I forgot to mention Baba Sahib's centenary, which happens in 1990, 91. All that figures in the book. Yet this book is before the kind of solidarity that is built across caste that Gita describes, with some struggle. Sometimes people are wary of working with the Madhikas, and yet you see intercaste marriages, you see all kinds of things, the whole drama of life unfolding there. How do you see this happening even before Mandal and Masjid, that this kind of a solidarity happened, this kind of a struggle happened? Was it a little ahead of what we think of as today, especially with identities and solidarities becoming together?
See, what happened, in a way, the journey from radical left movement. I was in the civil rights movement with Organization for the Protection of Democratic Rights, and Gita and Cyril have come out. And we all, in a way, Gita, me, Cyril, in the background, I don't know much. I was not interacting with him much, but there was a similar pattern. We got disillusioned with the radical left movement by 1985. That was Karam Chedu beginning. And Paul and these people were already with Vyavasaya Kuli network and so on. So then while taking up the Dalit caste, more than any other left group, it were the NGOs, non-governmental organizations, not in the sense of NGOization and then, but really getting into the Dalit life. And for the first time, I think Paul knows better, I thought that was the beginning of Dalit non-governmental organizations coming out, managing some resources from donors and so on, and then trying to help out Dalits more focused. So even Gita's work, in my view, is much stronger work is between 85 and 90. Afterwards, the Nalupu started in 87. And Cyril, me, and Tarakam became very active with that. But along with that, we are also interacting with the NGOs which were working with Dalits. Karam Chedu problem, continuous protests were happening as a demark from the earlier left kind of movement. So then came Mandal. So in a way, we all were, I think, Gita and Cyril, if I know, were the first upper caste who took pro-Mandal stand. And then the Sri Shakti Sangatana group, where Rama Melkote and Susi Tharu and all these. So otherwise there was no support to us. So we were trying to grapple with the Dalit questions, untouchability, and Karanchedu kind of atrocities. And then bonded labor process began by Gita in a very big way. Then I remember we all went to Chittoor and had a long one-day full walk to find out what kind of bonded labor is there in Chandrababu Naidu's.
Not one day, 30 days. It was part where
30 days, but I
Narendranath
was one day with you
there. But Narendranath, that is Manohar's
Yeah,
brother,
Narendranath, me,
Godapati Narendranath.
yeah, and Gita, and we all had a one-day full walk in Kuppam Taluka
Yes.
at that time. So it was a kind of period where those who came out of the radical left, and some of them even CPI, CPM, got tagged on to the non-governmental organizations who were working with seriousness. And I know, Paul, we started here, then we went to Durban as a collective force to make a Caste and Untouchability International. So that way, Gita's fundamental work, I think, is between 85 and 90. And along with that Mandal, the area has shifted for the rest of us into Mandal movement. And then, Babri Masjid came and all sorts of other issues cropped up.
Very good. So, Gita, we've heard very little from you. Of course, you're there in the book. So I thought you should weigh in last before we invite others to whatever you want to say to this audience. You know so many people here. As a publisher, somebody who wrote 400 books, Gita has expressed some childlike joy and innocence about the making of a book, what happens. It's like another first child of some sense. That's the kind of sense I get, her eagerness. She will call me and say, congratulations. And she got the book last. She had to wait for a week because we sent it by some surface courier. Said your extra copy is also coming in that. So she was restless. She even had a quarrel. I mean, how can Gita not have a quarrel? So she had a quarrel with a courier delivery guy also. No. So with such excitement and with such love, she was waiting for the book. So what do you have to say about it? What is this kind of joy you're getting out of it? And then also she'll say, "Arey, don't call me for launches. I don't want to do this. This book is going to become a headache." So there's a contradictory pull. In the book also you see, what have I done? Is this really good? Let me take a critical look at myself. So what is this? What is this Gita? Two Gitas fighting inside each other.
Yeah, first the contradiction of being a publisher and an author. So having sat on one side of the fence for so many years, and now to be an author and working with you, it's a great burden off my shoulders. I don't have to think about anything. I sent you a piece of coal and you made it into a diamond. Okay, Anand. So Anand and your team, my first thanks to you people for making the book what it is today. And yes, I worry always about this. Once you get a little famous and you get this halo around your head, will I change as a person? See, I would hate to change as a person. I mean, I've been for so many years the kind of person I am, and I see very often that a little bit of fame and people get their heads turned. So I worry constantly whether something like that will happen to me. So there is that worry. But then I also...
But you are famous. You are famous. What can we do about it? Yeah.
No, I'm not famous.
I mean, you didn't get Magsaysay and all those things that the Tamrams usually get, no? Somebody sings and they get a Magsaysay. Somebody, Aruna Roy, all these Tamram types will go get a Magsaysay. Why didn't you get Magsaysay?
Why I won't even get a small award yet. Even
you didn't.
I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, people who work against the state are not going to get any awards.
Exactly. My take on is that all those people somewhere, even when they say I'm going to return my Padma Shri and go take Magsaysay, what are they doing? So what is it that, where do they endear themselves to some kind of establishment, not just the state, right?
Yeah, but no, I don't want to comment on others.
Okay.
My fear is, I don't want any kind of crown on my head, because the crown could well become a crown of thorns.
Okay.
Yeah, that's been one thing. But then when young people read the book, they are reading the book and getting across to me, I'm like really totally delighted, because we are past the age when we can do anything energetically ourselves. So when young people see that there are possibilities, there are choices, there are so many things that can be done with one's life, then I think, yes, it's been worth it. And right now, no, I don't want to, I have nothing more to say. If there are any questions that you'd like me to respond to, I have no problem, but I really have nothing to say at this point.
So, well, she has nothing to say here, but there's a 432-page book there where she has much to say. So we will throw it open to people. Can we have a bias towards people whom want to say hello to Gita and who know her and all that, or anybody? It's open to all.
Can I make my little comment?
Sure.
My name is Gita Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
And I am a very old childhood friend of Gita's. And my elder sister, Lalita, who was also known as Nandu, was also with Gita and others in the Naxal movement at one point of time. But what I found most, there were three things in the book. I happened to read the book because one of the reviewers that you had sent it to shared a copy with me, and I just couldn't wait to read it.
Hello, Vimla, your sound has disappeared.
I think
power,
the electricity has gone off.
Yes.
Electricity has gone off.
But we can hear you. I think Wi-Fi is working. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So there were three things in the book that really really touched me very deeply. One was the kind of struggle that she went through within her home. And I was also a good friend of hers at that time, even in Osman University Women's College. So I was a little privy to some of the tensions and that were brewing. And it was sort of mirroring the kind of tensions my sister was going through at our house. So it was not very different. The second thing, again, because a lot of people very close to me who are also part of the Naxal movement, who were part of my family. And I just found her, the honest way in which she talks about the experience of CPI-ML and what it did to her and to other comrades who are working with her, was another part which really, really touched me. And I think she makes very... third one is she makes very light of this whole Hyderabad Book Trust. I think it was an amazing initiative. And it was one of those initiatives which at that point of time when she started, I remember the first one or two books that she brought out, she just took it very lightly. It was as if the smallest thing, a very small thing that she's doing. No, I'm only running a book trust. So I think she...
Vimala, has she frozen for everybody?
Yes, frozen.
Okay.
Maybe you should go on elsewhere.
Yeah, Vimala, we'll come back to you when you come back to us. So is there anybody else? Oh, Vimala is back. Okay. Can you round it off?
No, I just said that for me, reading the book was like talking to Gita. Because in between, I had lost touch with her because I moved to the north. I was living in the north and she was in Hyderabad, except for some occasional times when she came to Delhi, I used to meet her. But for me, the book was such an eye-opener. It was like having this long conversation with her. And I've had a lot of these conversations on caste in my head. And as Paul and all are aware, in my education work, I really felt that, the importance of how caste bears on and pulls down children in schools have been one thing that has really bothered me over the years. So thank you, Gita, for writing the book. And Gita is, of course, very, very precious to me as a friend.
Lovely. Thank you, Vimala. Is there anybody else who likely has read the book already who wants to ask any question? And I see a lot of Gita's friends, of course. Inga is there.
I think Manohar and John, you should ask them.
Manohar. Hi, G. Manohar there. Only your head is being seen. You're trying to duck. Manohar, you have anything to ask? John, anything to say?
Anand, I've read the book. If I can just,
Yes,
while we're waiting.
Anya. Yes, Anya. Go ahead.
Gita, I don't know you and I did not know your work, but the moment I saw the book advertised, I pestered Anand and I might have got one of the first copies, I think.
I think you did, because effectively it just came to me that day, and then even before Alex and others had seen it. So she was Anya was leaving Delhi for the US or somewhere, right?
Yeah. I was leaving Delhi and I read it all. I haven't been able to stop, kind of reading it. And I think what is so amazing, and I'm going to sort of speak about, I think there are a couple of things which are quite incredible about the book. One is, I think it really gives one, it's a very deep meditation, but through everyday life. What is remarkable is the way you name all the characters, like you go through a period of understanding the everyday struggles, but at two levels. One is what is going on at the bottom level of life, just the people you're working with. But the other is your constant interactions with the state actors, with journalists, with, and it opens up an era where it seemed to me that, so much has changed. Reading it now, it seemed to me you take us through a period where there is an idealism on the part of journalists, on the part of fellow travelers, on the part of many people. And then you see sort of the positions getting hardened and the whole work becoming kind of harder and harder. But for me, I think what I wanted to even see more of that in the book is your personal, I wouldn't call it struggle because you do it very lightly, but your sort of difficulties with sort of shitting in public and the food and the everyday and the spending time in, and sort of literally, lefties talk about declassing themselves. But what we are seeing is a declassing and a decasting and so on at a personal level. And as a woman, I felt that, what you talk about, your personal decisions, your attitudes to marriage, the relationships that are coming through. For me, I think that was so beautifully woven together that it is actually, we were talking a lot about NGOization, but you make it very clear that the kind of nuances and different positions that are kind of coming out of these, that all NGOs are not the same. All left organizations and people and individuals are not the same. Even IAS officers, everybody isn't the same. But as the book goes on, I felt a certain kind of despair along with you. And it seemed to me that things were getting just harder and harder. And of course, listening to other people here, I realized that you already created the base of something that other people carried on. So it's not fair to see it like that. But for me, what I wanted to ask you was, did you experience it like that? Did you experience it as just a personal exhaustion, but also a big political change between when you started the work and, where the book comes to an end? And the other small question, it's not a small question, is that writing it in this moment, I'd love to hear your comments about the differences between that moment, even when you say, I'm burnt out, you use that phrase. And now, it seems to me that some of the work you did really requires a kind of bullheaded, not thinking about the overarching impossibility of doing something because the state is so horrendous, not to mention the casteism, which is woven into the state fabric and the attitudes at every level. So I think the book is amazing because it's not taking it only as a theory, but the everyday woven fabric of what it means to have struggles where you are a composite person, you are a feminist, a lefty, anti-caste activist. You are everything in that book. So, and also a young woman, a young woman seeking this out for the first time. So I just wanted to thank you very much for writing the book, but to also ask you to reflect, just on the different periods that the book takes us through.
Gita.
Yeah,
Over to
thank you. I mean, that was a
Thank you,
great-
Anya. Thank you, Anya. I mean, good reason I gave you the book. I mean,
Yeah, I was 30 when I started off, 30 or 26. And there was this unfinished idealism. I had joined, I had sort of given up everything for the Naxalite movement. And then, I was left high and dry in the sense that there wasn't anything to look forward to. The Valmiki experience wasn't fulfilling enough. So I thought to myself that I must do something and I was 30 years really full of energy. So when I started on the work, I did not place any limits on myself. I could defeat the world. At that moment, I could do anything I wanted. So, but as it went on, it was not the landlords who defeated me. In fact, they got defeated. They withdrew. They compromised. But the fact that we had no political alternative. I thought at some point of time, some kind of team would emerge. There would be people in other areas who would be working on similar questions. But then the world seemed divided into Naxalites who wouldn't take up any constitutional activity, or constitutionalists who wouldn't move beyond, pushing a petition. Because there has to be a balance between the two. You have to mobilize people. They have to take some action into their own hands. Through a petition, nothing moves, and neither through a gun does anything move. So I thought there must be other people like me who would be doing similar things. There'd be a team, and we could think out this big thing of what do we do in politics. In one area, it's very easy to get politically powerful. We would have been politically powerful, and if I'd gone on the route, we would have an MLA or two definitely in that area. But what do you do? Because you've seen in the electoral process how power corrupts. So what is the way out? And there was certainly despair, because I remember Cyril, my husband, was very critical of me. You've started it and you can just drop it like that. How can you do that? And I said, what else do I do? I mean, you need to have some hope or a vision to work for. And if all was that, that I was getting chicken every day and I was become great hero, and that's no hope for a future.
Yeah.
So I said, if you can tell me what is possible, then there is something, but there wasn't any answer. And my people were very happy because we were getting very powerful. Shankaraiah, Shankaraiah and all the others said, now we've got the cloud, we beat the Reddys on their own territory. And now we are sort of, virtually rulers here, which is equally distressing, because that's not what really we want. We don't want to replace a ruling class by another ruling class.
Correct.
And there wasn't an extension of that kind of work wasn't possible unless I started the work from scratch elsewhere. I did try to work with several organizations, trade NGOs, and also one ML group to see if I could help in doing something. But the ML groups didn't want the hard work of legal work, etc. And the NGOs didn't want anything to do with the police. You don't want police to. So then I thought, I have nothing more to do, and so I just gave up. I just gave up, and that's it. And I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but I think if one is working alone, you have no other option.
Yeah. Yeah. But from this moment, I'm just very curious. I mean, I think the power of the book, is your meditations also at the end. I found so moving about the forms that we can imagine political action. And frankly, the whole story comes to that point where you talk about these things. And I won't say much because I think a lot of people haven't read it, but you should read that book, partly for the way it makes us think about what we can do, and that it's a very hopeful book, despite, I mean, in fact, because of this very sober appraisal. But from this moment, Gita, does it seem that anything, of that kind, does it seem impossible to even for a young person to imagine that?
Absolutely not. Because you see, the key thing in this are the people. The people never lose hope.
Yeah.
And the people always look for doable alternatives. The people want a change in their lives, and they are the ones who need change in their lives, and they are the ones who are going to make it. So all they need is a little help in areas where they have a lack of resources. They need a little help. They need a little courage. They need a little, pushing, pulling, that kind of thing. And people never change. People get exhausted after one cycle of movement. They need to rest. They need to get back, put their children in school, look after health. But then they're ready for another cycle of struggle. It's only that I think mainly maybe in the two Telugu states, the left movement has sort of disintegrated so badly into so many factions and into mindless violence that people are afraid of doing anything which sounds radical. And also there's been a tremendous NGOization of all other forms of movement. And once I think you're dependent on funds, then it's very difficult to take up an independent program. You need to be able to react on the spot and say, this is what I'm going to do right now. This is what we need to do. But if there is a structured project and a project proposal and how you go about it and an evaluation at the end of it, it's very difficult to be independent and do things. So I think the system has not been conducive, but people, I think, people are more aspirational. So what? I mean, so if they're aspirational, they're rightly so. But there are so many more struggles to be won. If young people say we can just do it, all you need to say, go over there and do it, start work somewhere and, pick up a little bit of courage, and there's no end to it.
Yeah, I hope this book makes people think like that. And it made me think, even as I was working on it, haven't done anything, Gita. Like you look back and say, wow, what all got done here. And it is not about Gita doing it at all for me. It is about, in fact, Gita is somebody I've known even before this book as somebody who likes doing two things. One is questioning, other is being questioned. And she looked for, there's no end to this process, and there's no end to these answers. So I'll call Jangam Chinnaya, who's here, who has raised his hand. Sorry, it has taken a while. Apologies, Chinna. Go ahead. Chinna, will you also show your video?
Yes, I can show
there
my face.
You are,
And,
there you are. There you are.
Jai Bhim to you all. And,
Jai Bhim to you.
Yeah. And Gita, I'm so privileged, and I'm, I have to complain that my book didn't arrive so far. So I didn't read it. But one thing, I have found a relationship with Gita. And one thing I wanted to tell you that how I came to know who Gita Ramaswamy is. And I remember in undergraduation first year, I had a friend. We used to be in residential degree college, and I met one person. This friend of mine, his name is Satyanarayana, comes from Timmapur village, where Gita's movement was very intense. And I remember first year we had get together. This friend started singing revolutionary songs, and I asked him, "What is this background, man? Why do you?" Then he started telling me all the stories about Gita and Cyril, how they're fighting against these landlords in the villages. And like for days together we started, we used to share, whenever he used to go to village, he used to come back and again tell me, how the movement is happening. And that is what the introduction I had about Gita Ramaswamy. And I used to imagine Gita means like, very ferocious women. If I was for very long years, I was waiting to see how Gita Ramaswamy looks like, and also Cyril Reddy. And it's very interestingly, then afterwards, again, Shankaran sir used to talk to me about Gita's work and how Gita did this amazing work in the villages. And these two experiences basically made me look, wonder, how Gita looks. I still remember, when I first time met her, like unbelievable, finally I'm seeing this person. And accidentally Cyril also, I met him, once. And this is like, when we were growing up, like one of the important things is these are the people who basically molded us, that, we can build a new world. And, there are these sacrifices, these sort of, organizing, basically the possibilities. One thing is, there are two ways Gita's life can be seen. One, as I think Paul and others, and so Shankaraiah was telling that, that there was a distance between landlords and also the state system. State system in 80s still, was standing for the rights of the people, and people had lots of hope on democratic possibilities and also rule of law. And the second thing is that the context of the civil rights movement within Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, for example, both in terms of prisoners' rights or even in terms of the kind of revolutionary movement which is building up. You have this, along with revolutionary movement, civil society at that time, but especially late 70s and 80s. One of the important things is about this whole idea of educating people about the availability of law. Like, for example, Bojja Tarakam's book, Police Law is just saying what to do when you get arrested by police. And HPT published, I think, that book. And I remember we all used to have as students in our rooms that, how do we, whenever there is a problem, how to get rid, use the law. So in this context, I think, this whole context of both revolutionary movements and also civil rights movements, which actually saw the possibilities and also the idealism, particularly bureaucrats, like, whether it's Madhavrao Gargani, if you think about many of these very interesting activist bureaucrats who basically not only showed the possibilities with law, but also, gave us hope in terms of, you can depend on the system, particularly despite problems, despite various complexities. Like, this is what happened. And in terms of, giving hope, and also people like Gita showed us a way that there is a possibility that we can do within the system and within the institutional structures. Like, you can live with idealism and still you can have a life of change, or life of difference in terms of how you do politics. And like afterwards, when now Gita is like, we almost, whenever I have a problem, I tell her, and I message her, and it's a kind of she questions me and various things. So in that context, I feel really fortunate to know from student days onwards about her life, and now as a friend who basically, with whom I almost interact every week and every day. And I'm eagerly waiting for the book to come, and I really want to look into it. So thank you, Anand, and for publishing.
Thank you.
And Gita, congratulations.
Thank you for a very sweet message. This book is also, I must share with everybody. There are people even before it so-called hit bookstores, because everybody talks about Amazon. Is it available on Amazon? It is from today, tomorrow. They're sending it. But even before that, those of many who got it from our website, others, they're writing to us on WhatsApp, writing directly to Gita. People get her email ID and write letters to her. So this is going to be a publicly reviewed book. We don't know whether where to publish all these reviews. These are not about publishing reviews at all. This is about people owning up the book, and I hope that I hope to see more and more of it, because rarely does one get to do a book which appears to be infectious. I mean, I use that word with caution. Okay. So any more questions? Any more comments, observations, hellos for a quick last round? Because we are close to 7:30, 1.5 hours. We started a little ahead of time, in fact. Anybody who knows her, Satvant, I can see, Veena, Sangeeta Kamath. I'm just scrolling through the names.
And what about me?
There you are. What about me?
What do you mean, where am I? I've been sitting here right through.
I know, but I'm trying to, yeah.
And I should begin with a complaint. I mean, rubbish, this is nonsense. Everybody's got a book. I have not got a book. And you, Anand, who makes me write, and we're holding a gun against my head, write this, write that, write whatever it is. He does not actually send me a copy of the book.
I'm getting it to you. I'm getting it to you. I'm customer care, complaint cell, everything. I take this public scolding seriously, and I'm going to make amends, Uma. I will.
I'm really.
See, with you, again, I'll tell you whom I have been lax with. Bezwada Wilson, for instance, who even wrote a blurb for the book. Now, I thought I've been caught up with some personal mess. I don't want to share with everybody here. No. I meant to come and give. This whole business of couriering it to somebody. I could have done that. With you, it's a larger conversation. So it's like I have to come.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I'll do that. Forgiven. But you still have a quarrel with me. Pick it up. Yeah, you're like Gita. Yeah, you have a quarrel with Gita, pick it up.
No. Gita, I'll never quarrel.
Come
Gita
on.
will quarrel with Gita.
Then Gita will quarrel with you.
No, she won't quarrel with me.
What is this? No.
You know, no, anyway, I want to just say that I didn't know Gita for very long. I don't know how I got to know you actually, but I saw a piece, you know, she facilitated so much of the interviews that I did with women who went to jail during the emergency and around that time. That's how I got to know her. She did all of that for me. She even transcribed some of my interviews. And then it was very nice because we got into a relationship in which she was drawing. I mean, I would get drawn into some of the work that she was doing because it was up my tree, as it were. So that's been nice. But I was really moved when she refused to come. She refused to be interviewed by me at any point. She was very circumspect, very shy. But what was interesting is that she sent me at some point a marvelously written piece. I don't know if it features, Gita, that little account of your being held in custody by your family.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it was the most beautifully written, most powerful account I saw of actually the way in which families incarcerate you. I mean, the state, of course, incarcerates you when you do something, but the family incarcerates you right before. I mean, it doesn't even allow you to be who you want to be. So that most powerful account was, I could see the writing talent, I mean, the amazing writing talent that Gita has. So I've never, I mean, that's my clue to it. I knew when she started to write the book, we had some conversations and so on. And then suddenly one day, you know, when I discovered that the book is out and it's now going to be launched, or not launched, but you know that.
Like this.
No, launch तो ठीक है, launch तो ठीक है, लेकिन उससे पहले कुछ नहीं. That is, उससे पहले blot by Mr. Anand.
Yes.
Which is objection.
Yeah. Okay. Objection noted. Sustained.
But I'm so delighted. I'm really so delighted, and I hope it will be. I know it will be widely read, but I hope also that
by you too.
No, yeah, sure.
I'll give me a couple of days. I have Pillamari Srinivas here who has raised a hand.
I want to say one
last thing. Sure.
Which is I even forgot because you you know it. You see, in a sense, the work that she did and the position that, I mean, the fact that she's never given up, and even in her books she's publishing, she's politically engaged all the time. So that's those are ways in which she has sustained herself. But I think it's also very important that she's written what she's written at this point of time in our lives, because I, for one, am just sitting with despair, and I really don't know what to do, because so many of my friends are in jail. So many young people who haven't done anything except call for a chakka jam somewhere have gone to jail. So, you know, we are living in extraordinary times. And in those extraordinary times, how do we actually put out a sense of hope and a sense of engagement with our society and with the inequalities in our society? I think if this book actually can take us back to those days when, you know, it was in the realm of possible that you could make for change, and within the constitutional parameters work with all sorts of people. I think that's fantastic. And if the young read it, then I think more than anything, Anand and Gita, you would have you know, done something quite remarkable from the point of view of this terrible sense of depression otherwise that we're all stuck in. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Uma. Gita, as soon as you respond, after that, we will take a question from Srinivas. And I pasted a question for you from a member of the audience who'd rather pose it on the message to you. So I'm
Good evening, sir.
Srinivas.
Sir, I am Srinivas Piralamari from Adilabad. Let me first congratulate Gita Ramaswamy garu, because after a long time I'm seeing her and hearing her voice after 20 years. When I was in Hyderabad, I used to attend her lectures in Bashirbagh Press Club and Shankaraiah Vijnana Kendram. Really, we inspired a generation of the Telangana like me, inspired a lot with her work and her contributions. When I was in the campus Usmania, we used to heard about her contributions and work. But after coming to know about her book, after a long time, we are coming to know so many things, her contribution and her struggles and her stance on gender and landlords and the ML movement. So she not only, I came to know that she not only worked for the laborers in and around Hyderabad, she also worked for the in interior areas like Adilabad, where recently I found a Nalupu magazine which she used to edit the piece written on Maru Master, who was the first Adivasi teacher, came from a Gondi school established by anthropologist Hemanda. So she's the really good person, not only activist, who used to encourage budding journalists like us with her inspirations like Kancha Ilaiah and Chinnanna. Chinnaya also studied in the tribal residential school in Uttur in Adilabad. So these people really did a wonderful work. Gita Ramaswamy garu, really we inspired a lot with your work. We will continue. We will work further for marginal sections with your inspiration. Really, sorry to say that I did not read your book. I will go through it soon and I will write something on that. Really, it is a wonderful interaction. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Srinivas. So there is this question to you, Gita, if you can respond to all of this together once. There is this part in the book where you ask, who are we willing to forgive and have compassion towards? Who are we willing to forgive and have compassion towards? Would you like to reflect on that, Gita?
1 minute. Where is the question?
I sent it to you on a message. So somebody sent it to me on a message.
Oh.
Who are we willing to forgive and have? Okay, I'm asking you now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you ask her about this part in the book where she asks, who are we willing to forgive and have compassion towards? Yeah. I mean, at some point of time, we should be willing to forgive everybody and have compassion to see the other person's point of view at some point of time. I'm not saying everything is possible at one go, but I think as we age, it's important that we resolve our issues and forgive people and get on. Even some of the Reddys who, I used to hate, I'd have my fantasy before going to sleep was how I'd kill each one of them. Even those Reddys, I think, the fellows are also, they were brought up in a certain way. They were raised by their fathers in a certain way. And now the world is changing. They have to accommodate the changing world. So even, I don't think of them with such anger as I did before. So I think it depends on how far one can stretch oneself. And unless we do it, we don't know how much we can stretch oneself. But at the same time, I think to overlook things because it's not convenient to press for them is also some kind of falsity. I'd rather be alone and do what I think is right than be with a group of people just for the sake of being with a group of people. Does that answer the question with someone? Yeah.
It's an answer. I don't know if it answers it to them. Yeah, it does. I've got on the message board. Thank you, Gita. Is there anybody else? One last round, 7:30. Oh, it's beyond 7:30 now. So there will be more chances. We're not going to keep this only limited to Zoom, I'll tell you. Initially, Gita was unsure of being a participant in launches, and she says she hates public speaking, and she talks about it in the book as well. And she finds that most people who go on and tell about things on stage are hypocrites, and she'll also tell you why she thinks so. So despite that, we've convinced her to do a few launches or speak at certain events, because finally the book is about meetings, and it's important to meet people. It's nice to meet people like this on Zoom, but we hope to meet more people in person as well. There's definitely something in Ibrahimpatnam, definitely something in Hyderabad, and we're thinking of doing something in Bombay when the weather gets better. But the book is out there, the discussions have started, people have been reaching out. So I would ask all of you who have come here, thank you everybody. And tomorrow is also, like you see the poster behind Gita's thing. So to launch a event like George Reddy, what I was fascinated was they're doing a morning walk at 6 a.m. Gita tomorrow. Yeah, you have to unmute.
6:30.
6:30. So they're going to do a morning walk, and I found it quite wonderful and quite moving, because there's so much walking in the book. There's so much padayatra. There's so much cycling in the book that we hope to also catch up in Hyderabad, meet with people, go to Bombay, probably get Gita to Delhi. Thank you. I hope everyone here has had a good time thinking about the book, talking to Gita. Thank you, Ilaiah. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Particular thanks to Shankaraiah if he's still around. And more than everybody, all of you, and to Gita, with whom we have decided, chalo, the book, there's a book title in the has the word gun. So we'll go all guns blazing with the book. We'll go to town with the book. Thank you. Thank you, all of you.